Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. This is our December 2023 release compilation video for all the new folks. I believe there are 6 or 7 of you since the last time we've come together here on YouTube. Welcome to everyone. Hope you enjoy the channel. Hope you find it informative, entertaining, and one or the other. Hopefully both. I'm not picky. This will be, if you've never been through one of our video sessions like this before, be a rundown of all the expected automotive kit releases for the given month. And again, if you happen to be watching this from the future and you're not paying attention because you're on your phone and all the stuff is all squished because you're in full screen sideways mode, this is the December 2023 video. So there are going to be some domestic and Japanese kit releases, as you might expect, but probably not as many as you'd expect. We only have kits coming out of 2 companies, or 3 companies technically, here in the United States, and then only 2 companies in Japan. And I want to brace you all up front that the round 2 kits that are coming this month are not the kits that you are expecting, not the droids you're looking for. Keep in mind that the videos that Round 2 puts out every month, the ones with Chad and the Mustang that pulls into the parking lot, and they talk about everything that Round 2 does, including diecast cars and slot cars and all that stuff, those are product information videos. They are not release schedule videos. If you pay any attention to those videos and then compare it to reality, you will realize that on most months, maybe 1, maybe 2 of the 5, 6, 10 model kits, or anything else for that matter, that they show in a given month actually show up in that month. So the December video, of course, is touting the new Ford pickup trucks and the 71 Demon and a whole bunch of cool stuff, right? Well, those are not actually going to come out this month. Those were on a container ship from China at the time that video was recorded, and so they aren't going to be out before Christmas. But all is not lost. Those kits will be coming out in January. They are already on the distribution list for next month. So, save your Christmas pennies. You are going to be spending quite a bit next month, more than likely. I know I certainly will be, because several of those kits are kits that I want to obtain for my vast hoard of styrene. So that being said, what are we going to get out of Round 2 in the month of December? Well, you're going to get 2 kits. So first up, you're going to get a reissue of the 64 Ford Galaxy in the modified Stalkers boxing. Another one of these kits getting drug out of the past, so to speak, and being re-released upon the world. The last time this kit was seen was 2007. I'm not technically sure it was a Model King release. I think this might have been something that RC2 did, because the box art I've seen from 2007 doesn't have the little Model King logo on it that most of them did when they were redone. Again, this will be another one of those kits brought back. Several of the modified Stalkers, of course, if you've paid attention the last couple of years, have been released. This is just the next in a series of them. It does say pad-printed window net for the front. I'm not sure how that... I honestly have never had one of these, so I could only assume that means that the window net on the front is rubber or vinyl material and not plastic or any kind of like submarine screen door kind of material. So, yeah, I'm guessing that that's what that is, because again, like I said, it's not something I've personally laid my hands on, in real life, as it were. Has what they're calling pre-painted tires, which I assume are pad-printed tires. I would assume they're the same tires that are coming in all of these modified Stalker kits, as that would have sort of been a go-to part, right? The wheels and the tires would be the same through all of these kits as the time went on. It's got the 75th anniversary sticker on the front, if that means anything to you. And, yeah, it's back out there if that's something you're interested in, or you're recollecting these, because, again, 16, 18 years ago were when the majority of these were last seen, so there's a whole generation of modelers who may have never seen this kit in real life before, or have only seen like the original, which would be really, really expensive, even though it's been out a couple times, because original kits are worth more, whether or not they actually I guess technically be worth more. Like is a kit from I think it was 1975 is when this kit was done originally, when they butchered up the original 64 Ford Galaxy and turned it into this thing. If that kit is necessarily worth anymore, because, well, the decals will be shot, and who knows what kind of condition the insides of that will be in at this point. But collectability because you have the first issue. You know, it is what it is on that. So I leave it up to you to decide whether or not that's actually something that is of value to you. The other kit release from round 2 is going to have an NPC tag on it. And it is a Dodge Shelby Charger. So the front-wheel drive coupe from Dodge here. Basically, it is a, Plymouth Horizon with a different front clip on it. This is sort of an artifact of that time in modeling where these were annuals, actually, in like 83, 84, 85, and 86. They're branding this as a 1986, which would make the most sense because it would be how the tooling was parked the last time it was used, which was actually in 1986. So it is, what, going to be 36 years since the last time? 36 years. What was I say? 46 years. No, that would be 1976. It's going to be 36 years since the last time this kit was seen. Has a few custom parts to it. Another set of wheels, window louvers for the back window. I believe there's a couple of engine parts that are also included in here as being custom as well. Has an incredibly large expanded decal sheet, which the original kit never ever could have ever dreamed of having. This includes not only the side stripes that go around the bottom of the car, around the bottom of the rockers, around the whole car. Also has those centerline big stripes that go over the hood, the roof, and the rear deck lid in 2 different colors, no less. Now, I don't know if that will necessarily get you every single color combination you could have got a Dodge Shelby Charger in. I will admit to being wildly lazy and not caring enough to look up what color combinations they would have come in and compare them to the 2 colors included on the decal sheet. But it's certainly a great deal more than it had way back in the past, where it might have had like an outline and you would have had to paint it yourself. Actually, the 1986 issue of this, I don't even think it came as a Shelby Charger. It was sort of a quasi-rally car, as you may recall. So, if you're into 1980s cars, this might be a fun one to pick up. NPC kits of that era are kind of dicey in terms of fit and finish, and this would have been used 4 or 5 times, including the earlier pre-Shelby Charger versions of this kit. However, it hasn't been used since the 1980s, so at the same time, it might actually be a fairly decent condition tool, and they've done a lot with these old tools as far as, cleaning them up and making sure they're not completely and totally useless. It's just, fit and finish in the 1980s in any domestic kit made in the United States was pretty shady, just because of the condition of the markets at the time, right? NPC, when this kit was made, was not part of AMT Ertl at the point. AMT had been bought by Ertl a few years earlier. Monogram, Revell, still 2 separate companies at the time, and everybody is kind of floating on very, very tight budgets, and AMT NPC having promo contracts. The reason why this kit exists as an annual, of course, is because it was a promo. That was what the cars were in the 1980s. A lot of people talk about how we obviously got a lot of traction off of the Is the Hobby Dying for 2024 video we did. Clickbaity title for the win. I wish my ad revenue had been turned on for that. So that I could have at least made a couple of bucks off the everyone being interested in that video. But for all of the hobby's dying, your hobby almost did die, along with like the whole entire 1-to-1 U.S. automotive domestic manufacturing back in the 1980s as well. So I'd be very interested to see some of these other old 80s stuff that exists come out. I mean, there's a Chevette laying around somewhere because that was done as an annual for at least 3 years, maybe 4. Enough that they did the update to the front end of it from the sort of smaller grille to the larger egg crate grille, and the round headlights to the square headlights. So hit me with a Chevette, round 2. Give me all of that Malaise era goodness, right? You have all of those AMCs, we have all the Pacers and the Gremlins. It's time to start plunging into those 80s Malaise tools. Where's my NPC Chevy Cavalier? I need an NPC Chevy Cavalier. Alright, so moving on, all jokes aside, to the folks over at Atlantis. They've got a reissue of an old monogram tooling they picked up when they picked up those odds and ends from Revell. It is the Tom Daniel Sidewinder. Now, if you know enough about these kits to think that looks familiar but doesn't sound like it, this is the Tom Daniel's Rattler. Tooled up back in 1985. Again, part of the tooling parts, pieces, and oddball things, because Revell did keep some of the U.S.-based tooling in the new company, and then they got rid of a lot of this other stuff when they bought out the U.S. side from Germany. And if you haven't figured out yet, Atlantis has all of the U.S.-based Tom Daniels tooling at this time. They don't have the China-based Tom Daniels tooling, so there's some stuff that can't be released by Atlantis, but they have all of the U.S. stuff. And this has copper-plated parts. They do appear to be sort of an antique copper, rather than being like a bright polished copper. I guess polished copper would technically be bronze at that point, but it's not a polished copper. It's not a shiny, glossy copper. It is definitely something that appears to have some age to it, which is a little weird for being a show rod, right? This is kind of a shiny, fancy, one-off creation. It should be, pretty showy, right? It's a car show thing. You'd see this at Autorama or something along those lines, not sitting in a derelict pile out behind Tom Daniel's shop. At least you'd hope not. Box art, new decals, everything done by Kelly Daniel, his son. And if you're interested in these type of kits, well, this is back out for you to enjoy. Over at Salvinos JR, we've got 3 releases for the month of December. First up, you have sort of the kit of the month, as it will be known internally, the kit that all the club members get. And this is another vintage kit. A little more vintage than the last month's in terms of importance. Anyway, this is Bill Elliott's 1987 Ford Thunderbird, the 212.809 mile per hour fastest car in NASCAR history. So this is kind of significant in the fact that this is part of the monogram tooling that Salvinos picked up from Atlantis when Revell got rid of all of that stuff. They were actually going to do the Jelly Bean Thunderbird, the 1983 to 1986 car, but when they opened up the tooling, they had 2 body tools, and they couldn't for the life of them figure out why they had 2 body tools, why they had 2 83 to 86 body tools. Why was that done? And it turned out that the other body tool that was already loaded into the mass tool as a whole, the way the monogram NASCAR kits were set out, it was a gigantic singular block of tooling that the body insert swapped out of. Well, it turns out the body insert was this 87-88 car, which is something that Revell and Monogram, in both entities, Monogram originally and then Revell when they had it later, never really released too many of. I believe there were only 3 solo versions of this kit done. Davey Allison's probably the one that you would remember most because it was the most recent one of those. It was why this body is still in that mass tooling, is because that was the last time it was run as that kit back in, was it 2007 or so? I should look that up on ScaleMates, but then that assumes that ScaleMates dates would be correct, which is kind of a dicey thing to begin with. And then it came out a couple of times in like double kits with 2 of these in one, or a roundy round and one of these in there at the same time. So anyway, this is being run off in red. All of the white that you see on the box art there, that's all supposed to be decals, and the gold is on there as being a nice bright metallic gold. Compared to sort of the dingy brown metallics you would have gotten back in the 1980s when this kit would have come out, back when like real serious metallic printing wasn't a possibility. Decals by Cartograph as usual, and there are no chrome parts on this. Now, you'll still get the chrome tree, of course, it just won't be chromed, which I find is a plus to this kit, because A, there ain't no chrome on an 87 Thunderbird, at least not on the actual race cars, and B, their chrome, being that real chrome they're so damn proud of all the time, that's magnetic because it's actually metal, like the thing you'd like make a bumper out of on a real car, is near to impossible to remove. It's metal. It ain't coming off. You can't bleach it off. You can't DOT3 brake fluid it off. You can't oven off it. You can only sort of file it off, which of course makes a huge mess in its own right. And a lot of times you end up either just dull coating it if you want to make it look like aluminum, or priming it and painting over it and just dealing with mold lines and all that sort of thing within it. It's one of the few major continuing issues I have with Salvinos vintage kits, that chrome is miss me on that chrome. Just leave it unplated, because at this point there are so many better ways to chrome things. I could put bare metal foil on it. I could put Molotol on it. There's Gundam paint markers that are chrome. There's green stuff. There's SMS. There's ProScale Paints has a chrome system. Everybody has a chrome system now. We can chrome it ourselves, thanks. Just leave it alone. But the other reason why this is good as not chrome is obviously the wheels on this are gold, and I don't want it gold chromed. I don't want the whole tree gold chromed. I just leave it alone. I'm a modeler. I've been doing this for 40 years now. I can paint it, thanks. I mean, the molded and color thing I totally understand because of the way they sell these things through NASCAR. NASCAR wants these things, if they're going to sell them through like the NASCAR.com site and the Fanatics site, to be accessible to everyone. Ergo, in molded in color with decals doing all the rest of the colors, so that technically you don't have to paint these. That you could argue about whether or not you need to paint them or not, but leave the chrome off. Your baseline customers can go run down to almost at Ollie's, but that's not quite the right place your baseline customer would run to. They might run to Ollie's on other circumstances. Run down to Hobby Lobby, rather, and pick up the Molotov pen, and off you go. Yeah, I know it doesn't say chrome if you touch it, but it's better than dealing with the chrome you can't get off. Two more kits are both next gen. You have Ryan Blaney's 2023 NASCAR Cup Championship Series Ford Mustang. This will be released as it ran at Phoenix in the Dutch Boy Menards livery here. So car is going to be molded in a chartreuse green, yellow, neon sort of color, and all of the blue is going to be decals. So, Salvinos is a really good guy, Clay Kemp, doing the decals. Done a pretty good job on divvying up the decal sheet in ways that it's usable, right? So that things are not one big massive block like they were originally before he took over, and minus trying to cut hood decals out around the hood louvers that are in these next-gen cars. Even the big acre and a quarter of decals, usually pretty good on these, so not necessarily a thing I object to, and like, oh, I can't believe I have to, do this. You always paint it. From what I understand, the blue on this is a separate decal sheet with none of the stuff molded or printed on it, so if you want to paint it blue and then add all the other decals on top of it, you can. So that option exists. The other kit coming out will be Chris Buescher's 2023 Mustang in the Fifth Third Bank livery. This is the nighttime Daytona winner. For the life of me, I can't remember off the top of my head what title sponsor has that. It was the Pepsi Firecracker 400 for the longest time. Then it was a Pepsi 400. This the I don't even think it's on the 4th of July weekend anymore now that I think about it, but this was the 4th of July night race for the longest time. So, as you may determine by looking at this box art, they now have an RFK license. So look for those kits coming in 2024 as they go through the process of tooling up the new body for the 2024 Mustang that NASCAR is going to be using. If you haven't seen anything because you don't pay that much attention to NASCAR, both the Camry and the Mustang have completely new bodies for next season, which they are going to have to find the time to tool up and produce in order to continue making next-gen cars. Expect your early 2024 next-gen kits to be Camaros because there aren't any significant changes to the Camaro. Although in 2025, I believe GM has to come up with a whole entirely new car to race because the Camaros is granted the 2-year exemption beyond the end of manufacturing that exists in a lot of race series. So at some point, Chevy's going to have to come up with something else. I'm pretty sure the Salvinos folks are glad they don't have to pay for 3 bodies this year rather than only 2, because they already put the Mustang and the Camry out, and then they had to do 2 hoods for the Mustang in order to do a 2022 car, a 2023 car, and now they're going to have to make a whole new body for the Mustang. But the bright side to that, of course, should be that this Camry and this Mustang should stay unchanged for a few years, so at least this time around they should be able to get a couple of kits out of it before they have to completely and totally scrap it and then move on to something else. So that will take us overseas to Japan, where we have Hasegawa and Fujimi providing the only kits this month. Fujimi has several, and we actually have box art for everything but one kit this month, so holy moly. We'll give you the non-box art one first here. So it's a reissue of their Toyota Cresta Super Lucent being a trim level for the Cresta. This has the new easy alignment system, so it's the new Toyota chassis. You see sort of underneath the line drawing of the car there. So new chassis, new suspension that lets you turn the wheels, camber the wheels, and then also raise and lower the ride height as the gimmick. Very small basic decal sheet here with just the interior gauge cluster and some of the Cresta Super Lucent badging and the engine badging and things like that. pretty basic kit. These were, I'm not sure what this one's selling for. I believe it's around or just slightly under $20. Prior to them tooling the new chassis, this was like a $15 tops kit because it was very, very basic, had a motorized chassis in it. So at least you get a little bit of a chassis improvement with this, but you know, I'm not necessarily sure that's enough to go run out and buy one necessarily. Going over into like regular kits, first up you have the 1/12 scale regular kits, the ones that have box art. How about that? You have the 1/12 scale version of their R32 Nissan Skyline GTR race car. This is the HKS livery for the 1993 season. The oil blotch or the art car, depending on you know, your thoughts on the striping package that comes with this. It's their 1/12 scale race car. If you've seen one of these before, you know what it is. The body and everything like that tends to be in ABS so that it's a little more sturdy, which does mean you have to use, you know, ABS glue or super glue or something like that. Regular plastic cement will not glue ABS together. And it does come with an engine, the doors open, and things of that nature. It's very, very Spartan, though, in terms of detail. You'd almost kind of want to go hunt down the few resin and whatnot detail upsets that exist for this to sort of flesh out the engine bay a little bit more and add a little more detail to it, or not, but it's up to you. But that's another one of their 1/12 scale kits being released. And then staying on the GTR theme, they're going to reissue their R35, the modern day Nissan GTR, and this is going to come in 2 different boxings, and you got to pay attention to what you're getting here so you know which one that you're purchasing. The one on the screen right now with both ends of the car showing to you is their curbside kit. This is I would say the 3rd best GTR in terms of body proportions. The Tamiya one, and then the Aoshima one, and then this one. Much like the Tamiya one, this is a JDM only. It is right-hand drive only. Aoshima is the only one that offered a left-hand drive kit for these. It's 5 whole pieces make the difference between left-hand drive and right-hand drive in the Aoshima kit. I don't believe Aoshima has any of the left-hand drive kits currently on the market unless you buy the Liberty Walk kits. The Liberty Walk kits, for some reason, have the left-hand drive parts included in all of 5 of them. You know, the Liberty Walk parts are available in the United States, so that makes sense, but it's kind of funny that the regular GTRs that exist, because they still have the I think it's the 2014 Pure Edition that floats in the regular catalog, you know, that exists, and there's going to be that new Nismo 2022 Nismo that's going to come out sometime in 2024 that's like a you know, 1/24 scale snap-tight kit, but never those 5 parts for some reason really stymie Aoshima up. So there's that one, and then the other one is this box art, and with a little what looks like a railroad track girder and then a bunch of Japanese characters after it, means with engine. So there are 2 versions of this kit. They're identical to one another except for the engine in this one. Now, it is not an entire engine. It is 79% of an engine, maybe even I'd say 89% of the engine. It does not have a bottom to it. It installs into the top of the engine bay after the kit is assembled. It's much better than the blob of junk molded into the engine bay that the Tamiya kit offers. Aoshima did offer an engine with their kits as well. You had to buy certain kits to get the ones with the engine. They also sort of, like Fujimi sold a curbside one and an engine one. Just put the engine in everything and shut up about it. But be that as may, this engine is probably the most detailed of the engines included in all 3 of the kits. This is a bunch of like air conditioning condenser lines and like air, you know, I would say air filter lines, but you know, like vacuum lines and coolant lines, and it's a lot of extra stuff sort of plugged into the very top of this engine when you assemble it. And if you could take this engine and put it in the Aoshima kit, you'd probably be like 9/10 of the way to a really nice GTR model. Again, there's just some weird wonky proportions about this. I've never seen one of these built, or maybe I have seen, but I can't think of one. One of these built where the hood and the front fascia fit in a way that looked good. But you know, again, probably the best GTR engine you're going to get. It's just not going to have a transmission, and it's not going to have an oil pan or bottom of the engine because it just, again, just sits on top of there. These cars, if you've never seen the bottom of one, are completely aerodynamic panels underneath, so there's no point in putting the bottom of the engine in, because even if you were going to build this whole thing full detail, once you put the lower body cover on, you can see any of the engine or any of the transmission for that matter. It's awesome. It covers everything up. And then there's one that goes over the entire back end of the car that only part of the muffler sticks out of. So it's very... I see the point of why they didn't do like full tilt boogie engines on those kits. But your mileage may vary as to what you think about the three and how they compare. But I've just never been happy with the way that GTR looks compared to the other two. If it was the only game in town, I'd be like, hey, woo! But it's not, so... you know, again, your mileage may vary. Difference between those two kits, by the way, is going to be $7. The curbside is going to be $7 cheaper than the one with the engine. So that'll be another hint as to what you're buying. But remember, both ends of the car, curbside, one end of the car, and the Japanese characters on the box underneath the R35 thing is going to be the one with the engine. So we wrap up here with Hasegawa having 4 kits of their own. And all but one of these actually have some new parts included. So the one that is a straight reissue, albeit with new decals, it's the month of the 1993 GTR HKS car. Their version in 1/24 scale. This specifically done for the Sugo 300 kilometer winning car. This was the one round in 1993 that HKS won. Very interesting in the history of HKS, you know, this applies to the 112 scale car too, but we're just talking about it right here, is that they were the only car of the R32s that ran in 1993, and really they ran a car in 92 as well, that ran their own individualized engine tune. They tuned their own car. It was not tuned by Nismo or by another, you know, like Impol or something like that. They tuned their own engine. And you know, at least once it was pretty successful. This will require you to go get some clear green paint if you don't actually have any, because yes, those headlights are indeed clear green. I don't know why. Nothing else that year was. It was just their own thing. Decals on this look pretty decent for being Hasegawa printed decals. Look, from what I've seen of them, they look like they're pretty well split up. Putting the big one on the hood is probably going to be the big, you know, literally big pain in the ass. But otherwise, it seems like they're pretty well split up, so they're not a monstrosity. You're not putting the whole side of the car on in one big swipe or anything like that. So hopefully those will be pretty decent. Again, Hasegawa's decals can be a little stiff sometimes. Getting around that front bumper and those lower air vents, I'm kind of a little worried about. But I believe, from what I've seen, those are in like 5 or 6 individual pieces, so that might end up being okay. And it's a really cool kit as far as the actual Hasegawa R32. Very nice tooling. Everything goes together real well on these. You have to do a couple of body modifications to get the front and rear tow hooks through and to clear space for the jack stands on the side skirts. But otherwise, a pretty satisfying build. Kits by Cresta, I think it's what his channel is. Just finished up the Advan liveried car last week, so if you want to check that out, had a pretty comprehensive build series on that and shared his opinions about the kit. Next up, you have the Nissan Skyline 2000 GTR. It's a KPGC 110 version, custom version. So this is 73 GTR, and it has the Watanabes included. Now, I still, for the life of me, cannot remember where these Watanabes showed up first. They are in a kit that I own because I remember making a comment at the time, hey, these Watanabes say 2000 GTR on them, but they've not actually been included in that kit as of yet. It has to be another... I don't even think it was a Nissan kit, to be perfectly honest with you. That's the thing that's stymieing me right now. I could go back and look through the channel and see if I could find it, but I'm not going to at this moment in time. And the front chin spoiler there, that big front chin spoiler, unlike a lot of these, is not a resin girl all the things situation. It is actually injected molded plastic. So this custom version will be something that will remain, if not in the active catalog all the time, it will certainly be something they can go back and reissue over and over again without having to go ahead and deal with resin components. You will see in 2024, Hasegawa has plans, at least for some of the situations where they were resin chin spoilering all the things, to make those a little easier to reissue in the future. But we'll cover that as those kits come along. Next up, you have the Isuzu Bellet 1600 GT 1969 version. The original kit of this came out not too terribly long ago. I'm trying to see. That was something I reviewed on the last video, so I put it away already. And that was a brand new tool kit in the fall. Oh, no, excuse me. That was in the spring of this year. That was a May or June release this year. So that was a brand new kit. This is a GT. It's the trim level below it. So you get a little bit down trim, if you will. There are new wheels in this, new seats in this, new bumpers, new hood. And because the GTR was the racing version, it was literally the street version, the homologated car that they needed to make a race car. And this is the little more sedate commuter vehicle. Expect there will be several more bellets along the way. I'm sure at some point we'll resin spoiler them all and things of that nature, but in the meantime, this is about 2 or 3 parts trees of new pieces, because if you've ever had a Hasegawa kit before, you know the seats come in their own little parts runners that are basically just the seat front and back on them, and that's cool. I like it. I had several of the Fujimi Isuzu bellets and was relieved when Hasegawa decided to do this kit, because I meant I could get rid of all the Fujimi kits. They were actually pretty nice, but they're not as nice as this one is. And then lastly in this video, the 1997 Mini Mayfair. So this is the third version of their new tool mini kit that did come out last fall, came out last Christmas time. They've done one with big over fenders on it and like rally lights on the front and things of that nature. Mini Mayfair was a Mayfair part of London, a trim package that was available on those last generation minis. Actually, was available on minis from the mid-1980s through the end of the production run. Again, another Fujimi kit that I had that was okay, kind of mediocre, and glad I don't have anymore, was actually a Mini Mayfair version of that kit. And this comes with new seats. This comes with new seats front and back, actually. It comes with new door panels, comes with new tires. Not new tires, but excuse me, new wheels, new bumpers, and a new front grille as well. It's kind of amusing to see this being sort of released as a Japanese thing. You know, it's a Mayfair, London, Tokyo. But you have to remember that not almost all, but a significant proportion, something along the lines of 75-80% of these last gen minis were sent to Japan, especially the ones with air conditioning. I don't know. From what I understand, from knowing people in the UK, maybe in 1997 you didn't need air conditioning as much as you do today, but it seems to be pretty damn hot over there occasionally in the summertime. I would think air conditioning would be something you'd pretty much want. Maybe it's a British sensibility about this being a historic car that never had air conditioning prior to the very end of the production, so I don't need no air conditioning, that's never had air conditioning, or something along those lines. But the Japanese don't hold those kind of pretenses, and we're like, all the air conditioning all the time, send them here, we'll buy them. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad to have this one come out, because having a special trim level mini was kind of fun in the sense of, just it's a special interior package, it's a special trim package, and all that. The interior stuff will be replicated with decals on the decal sheet as far as the seat patterns and stuff like that go. So it's kind of fun to have that come back and be something I can not build in the future. Well, I was kidding. Anyway, guys, that's what you're going to spend your money on in the month of December. Not a lot, but a few things. And then next month, there's going to be at least 10 kits from round 2 to get your hands on. Look forward to doing that video. That'll be probably one we could just do for round 2 and heck with everybody else. But in the meantime, I hope you guys, we'll have other videos out before the end of the year, but in the meantime, it'll be the last one of these. And if you only watch these, hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and we'll see you guys on the other side.